What's up guys, it's Graham here. So unfortunately, it's widely believed that millennials are the most financially screwed generation in history. After all, mortgage rates are at their most expensive level since 2001, food prices are rising at the fastest rate in decades, and the cost of living has gotten so high that 40% of Gen Z now works multiple jobs. Fortunately though, there is a solution and a strategy for anyone who wants to escape the hamster wheel and build their wealth, even when you're starting out with nothing. And better yet, it's not consisting of the generic
work hard, save at least 10% of your income, drive a used car, and always smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm.
Anyway, in terms of getting rich in your 20s, starting today, and actually being able to make a sizable difference using what you already have, here are the best recommendations that have worked really well for me that anybody would be able to follow regardless of their income, background, or education. All for the low price of just subscribing if you haven't done that already. So thank you guys so much, and also big thank you to Printify for sponsoring this video. Now, don't get the wrong idea here. Usually the people that tell you these things tend to believe it themselves, and they have good intentions, unless of course they have deep-seated insecurities and hate seeing other people do better than them. But the fact is, if you really want to build your wealth, you have to go against the grain and do what most people are not doing. And that includes only listening to people who are where you want to be. In fact, a while ago, I heard a saying that really stands out. Don't take advice from someone who you wouldn't want to trade places with. Following that is going to narrow down your focus in terms of who you'll listen to. And chances are, that's the advice that you should follow. The second, since the goal here is to build wealth, you'll need to make a lot of money. But one of the ways that you could do that and help speed up the process is with a good credit score. Whether you like it or not, those three numbers dictate whether or not you'll get an apartment, get a low interest rate when you buy a house, leverage your money, or sometimes even get a job. So if you want a step-by-step guide on how you can do exactly that, it's this easy. First, if you have no credit history whatsoever, go and apply for something like a Discover It secured credit score on a regular basis for the cost of nothing, and eventually you can watch it increase over time, for free. There's really no downside of doing this. You should just do it. Then third, after 6 months of doing that, open up another credit card, like the Bank of America Cash Rewards card, the Wells Fargo Active Cash card, or a Chase Freedom card. That's because the more on-time payments you have, the higher your score is going to be. So do the same thing as before. Open up the new credit card, put a few small charges on it, and then pay it off each month in full by the time it's due. Then fourth, after about 12 months of doing that, you could open up your first charge card, like the American Express Gold. Now this one does have an annual fee, but it has so many perks and features that pay for itself many times over. And because it doesn't technically have a limit, it's not going to report credit utilization, which is going to push your score up even higher. And finally, fifth, after about 18 months of doing this, you should have a credit score between 700 and 750, which will generally get you the lowest interest rates anytime you apply for financing. The third, even though improving your credit score is certainly going to help you build wealth, it's worked really well for me. First, you should decide what your dream career is. Then second, find a way to start working on that as soon as possible. If this is something that requires a certain certification, license, or skill, go and work towards that. If it's a career that people do on their own, like being an entrepreneur, find people in the field that you want to get into and see if you could work for them, even if it's for free, just to get the experience so that eventually one day you could do it on your own. Then from there, number three, if you realized maybe it's not a good fit, you don't enjoy it as much as you thought you did, or maybe it's different than what you expected, try something new and start the process over again. All of this is about using your 20s strategically for the sake of knowledge. Like, don't even try to make money at this point, because I promise, the experience that you get now will be worth 10 times more money in the future than what you would be able to make today. And after that, then leads me to fourth, if your goal is to make a lot of money, like more than $500,000 a year, you're probably gonna have to pick a business that's scalable. Like, let's be real, if you're stoned to making a lot more money, it'll teach you everything you need to know about time management and customer service, and it'll usually provide the funding for you to do almost anything else you want to do later in life. For example, I have an upcoming video that documents people who work in solar sales and make almost $1 million a year. And if you want to see a sneak peek of that, here's what they had to say.
You know, every time you knock a door, whether or not they answer, they say no or yes, you're making $54, right? And then when they're going out in the field, they just imagine $54 is hanging on every doorknob, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't get paid for the yes, right? We're getting paid for the no.
Or I guess you could just work for UPS. because they're paying $170,000 a year. That's a ton of money. Anyway, overall, I would say that most people you hear about who make a ton of money when they're young do so by starting their own business. And best of all, when it comes to doing this, pretty much everything you need to know is already on YouTube for free. And learning how to be self-sufficient to find the answers yourself is going to help you tremendously in income. This is probably the easiest second source of income for anybody to be able to do immediately starting today just by owning a stock, ETF, or index fund that pays you out on a regular basis. This is also very closely related to the third millionaire income source, and that would be capital gains. This one is often claimed to be the reason why millionaires avoid paying taxes, but in all reality, it's simply because the long-term capital gains tax rate is lower than that of earned income. But the point still remains. This can be very profitable if you do well. For example, fourth, once you start earning money, you could also branch out to rental properties. Sure, it's a lot of work, but with a consistent income, good credit score, and knowledge on a particular market, you could do quite well, even during a time where inventory is low. And then finally, six, you could increase your income by working a side hustle or taking on a part-time job. I personally tend to believe that this is one of the most underutilized income sources that people are not taking advantage of, especially when you consider that people are wasting 2.5 hours a day on social media produced when an order's received. This means you don't need to stockpile inventory in your living room or make a sizable upfront investment to begin making money. Like I used to do exactly this a few years ago when I was selling merch. The entire business model was just this. Once an order was placed, the clothing would print on demand, I would pay for the cost of those materials after already receiving the order from a customer, and then the item would be sent without me ever having to make an upfront investment. This is ideal because it's risk-free. You don't spend money unless the customer places an order. It's easy to set up yourself, and there are tools that'll help you with every step of the process. Even here on YouTube, there's a quick search for practically anything that you need. Plus, once you begin to realize just how many products out there are print on demand, you'll never be able to see it the same way ever again. Not to mention, Printify takes the process a step further because their prices are consistently cheaper, especially among the products that sell well. They integrate across multiple channels like Etsy, Shopify, Walmart, and coming soon potentially even TikTok. Their quality is top-notch. They give you a large catalog with a wide range of a year. You're paying all your bills, no complaints, you're getting by. But then you get a promotion to $60,000. All of a sudden, you then reward yourself with maybe a slightly nicer place, a slightly nicer car, maybe start going out for meals a little bit more often. Nothing big, but just small things. But then, a year or two later, you start making $90,000 a year. All of a sudden, you want to upgrade your apartment, or maybe you want to buy a Tesla Model X, because that's what everyone drives when you make $90,000 a year. I think you could probably see where this is going. I've seen so many situations where people are making $150,000 a year and not able to save any extra money than they were when they were making $40,000 a year, despite them making 4 times more money. And if you don't believe me, nearly half of people making over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Personally, I found one of the best ways to overcome this is that anytime you make any additional money, pretend it doesn't exist, live on the exact same amount as you were before, and invest the difference immediately. In this case, if you're making $40,000 and you get a raise to $60,000, well, great, now you could save and pay for it. For example, if I want to spend $100 a week eating out at restaurants, I know that I'll have to have $130,000 invested to be able to pay for it. This way, I know that whatever I purchase or spend is sustainable no matter what happens to my income. Throughout my entire 20s, I lived by the motto that I would invest my money to pay for the things that I wanted, and then I would save up for the specific investments, not the thing itself. I promise that by thinking this way, it's going to help change the way that you see money. Which then brings me to my last point, and that is this. Studies show that it's usually best to invest your money immediately. I know this is super basic stuff for YouTube, but this concept of passive income really changed my entire mindset as a teenager, and it's just this. $1 invested at 20 years old at a 7% return is going to be worth $21 at the age of 65. However, if you wait and you invest that exact same $1 at the age of 30, it's only going to be worth $10.68 by that same age of 65. This means your money is worth twice to a few $100s a month more. That could be life-changing money by the time you're older, so why waste it? Now, in terms of a step-by-step guide that you could follow when it comes to this, personally, I would begin by opening up a Roth IRA. This is a retirement account that you're able to invest up to $6,500 a year into, and all the profit you make within that account is completely tax-free by the age of 59 and a half. For anybody who's young, this is especially good for 3 reasons. First, you're probably not making a lot of money right now, which means you're in a low tax bracket. This means that very little money is lost up front to taxes, leaving you with more money left over to invest. Second, you'll also be young enough to enjoy decades of compound interest and growth, which means even more money left over in the future. And third, it's incredibly easy to do because almost every brokerage out there offers a Roth IRA that you could set up yourself in like 15 minutes. Like, just to show you how great this is, if you're able to invest $500 a month into a Roth IRA and average a 7% return, by the age of 65, you're going to have 2,200,000 years, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, you profit. The second, if you also plan on living in the same area for more than 10 years and you have disposable income, you could also look into buying rental property through what's called house hacking. This is when you buy a property for yourself, rent out the bedrooms or other units to provide additional income to cover your expenses, leaving you with a place left over for free. And then eventually, if you find another deal, you could eventually move on to that while keeping the previous one for cash flow. This is how I was able to build up a portfolio of rental properties throughout Southern California and Las Vegas in my 20s. And in my opinion, this is one of the best ways to build your wealth over time while also keeping your expenses as low as possible. Now, I understand that even with building your credit, reducing your expenses, switching jobs, maximizing your income, and working a side hustle, it's probably not going to happen overnight. It's also easier said than done. And even if you do everything on the list, it's still not a guarantee that you're going to get rich. But you will have a much higher likelihood of achieving it if you're dedicated to increasing your income, living below your means, sacrificing short-term discretionary income for the sake of investing immediately, and making it a goal that you have to achieve by pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. In fact, I bet most people would find it incredibly easy to save an extra 10% of their income if you just use a website like Mint.com, which tracks all of your expenses, and then cut back on the things you just don't need. I know it sounds trivial to start penny pinching here and there for the sake of saving more money, but all of these things really do start adding up. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, feel free to add me on Snapchat and Instagram, and don't forget that you could get some free stocks worth all the way up to a few $1,000s when you make a deposit using a paid affiliate link down below in the description. You may as well do that. That's pretty easy too. It'll take you like 10 minutes to sign up. Pretty good ROI. Let me know which free stocks you get. Thank you so much, and until next time.